You mentioned that when you were in Iona, that was kind of a pull for you, but you were discouraged from it.
Towards the end of my training, yeah.
Right, but can you tell me what the trajectory of your interest in spirituality has been? When did you really start thinking about that? Has that always been part of something that's drawn you, or?
Well, again, the story that how you ask for things and these things pop up later on. I mean, at Iona College in New York, at Christian Brothers School, I was a Christian brother for a year. Religion, spirituality, faith was all part of the life there. I went to Iona Grammar, Iona Prep, and Iona College. So I understand the Iona identity. Social interest, social justice, compassion, reaching out to others, all was part of what we did at Iona. And there's a very strong Christian foundation to everything, and religion was just part of the whole process there. And it wasn't until in college when I remember I went out one Friday night with some of my friends that I met at Iona. Some of these guys were a little bit older than me. These two guys in particular that I had met, well, I guess I was like a junior or a senior, so they were already out of college and had moved on to graduate school and other places. And I remember sitting at a bar one night having a discussion with one of these guys. His name was Mark, who was a very bright guy. And at that time, he was perhaps the most intelligent guy I'd ever met. And the guy was just really brilliant, and he is a very bright guy. I remember we were sitting down at the bar, we're having this big conversation about faith and science, and he was at that time very much an atheist. I think that was because he didn't have any girlfriends. God was punishing him. But in any event, I mean, he was a very strident atheist, and always having a conversation with him, saying, how can you be a psychologist and a person of faith? How can you have faith and science? They just don't go together. And I could never understand that. I was like, why don't they go together? I have no problem with them. I see no incongruence between my spirituality and the fact that I'm a psychologist. And I don't see how one limits or negates the other in any particular way. But he seemed to be very adamant about, how these things don't fit. If you're going to have reason, how can you have faith? And so I remember that night after that conversation on the way home, I really just, saying, it would really be wonderful to have an opportunity to be able to scientifically demonstrate the value of spirituality. I mean, I don't know how you would do it or whatever, but just to be able to show people that, being spiritual does have a value and a benefit to it. And it was interesting getting the job at Loyola. It was like the fulfillment of that prayer that we had that night. So I thought it was very interesting the way God moves. And coming to Loyola, again, seeing the value, reading more about spirituality, seeing its value about mental health, well-being, psychological maturity, all these wonderful things that seem to be associated with spirituality. And now being a researcher in the area and extending a lot of that work seems to be the fulfillment of that prayer there. So it's like the interest was there, and then the training, it wasn't, and then just a fortuitous sense of events brought me back to it and gave me the opportunity to really say, okay, go ahead, demonstrate the scientific value of spirituality. And I really think that's what my work has been doing, is demonstrating the value of it. And in some ways I feel like an apostle taking spirituality to the atheistic scientific community who doesn't want to talk about that. All the professors that I had in graduate school don't talk about this. And again, you were there when I gave the talk at NIA. I mean, the room went cold when I said the S word. I mean, it went really, whoop, where are we going with that one? How dare spirituality be talked about in this scientific forum? But again, the value of my position is the fact that it is so data-based and data-justified and data-driven. That, you can say I don't like spirituality or spirituality is not important, but there's a body of data here that needs to be addressed. And any scientist worth his or her salt has to at least stop and look and consider that information. And either you disprove it and dismiss it, or you have to at least accept and acknowledge that there's something there. And I think the value of my work is that it's sufficiently rigorous that people can't dismiss it. They can't, we've looked at all the different angles. We've looked at alternate explanations for what and it's just spirituality.